That's Amelia Earhart standing there in the middle, and to her right is Sir Kingsford Smith, who flew the Southern Cross, first across the Pacific. That's with the little model of my chassis of my car.
What scale model?
Amelia Earhart was a very, very great friend of mine. She just really loved my car. That model no longer exists. Amelia, that's Sir Charles Kingsford Smith. She received the gold medal of the National Geographic in Washington, and Mrs. Roosevelt asked her to come down and stay with her at the White House, and Amelia said, Bucky, if I'm going down there, that's Starling Bridges, by the way, and the older man by the tail there. Amelia said, Bucky, I'd like to have your car to be my official car so that your car can really be in on the celebration in Washington, which was darling of her. But she did things like that all the time. I just saw a man, Coffin, who was the first flyer for Curtiss Wright. These are all my wonderful crew I had there, 28 boys in the flying fish coats. Our emblem, look at how she turned. She was a lovely vehicle. That's Starling Bridges at the microphone there with the mayor of Bridgeport and a man named Scotty, that mechanic there. The Locomobile Company had a little kind of a small raceway there, and we were running up and down, and the people came from all over the countryside to see that. At the Chicago World's Fair, another session that next year with my car, that's Frank Coffin, I said, the first flyer for Curtiss Wright. The first man flew under Brooklyn Bridge. You can see that canvas top, which I'm sorry to say, the button-down canvas top where the driver got killed. You can also see my window of my periscope there. But she was really superbly turned out. Starling Bridges building boats for the richest, most powerful yachtsmen in the world. And Starling just said, you never turn out half finished work. It really has to be really beautiful. If you have a principle to demonstrate, don't let it suffer because you haven't turned it out right. I was somewhat of a fatty then. I hadn't eaten for years, and suddenly I had enough money while I was building this thing I was staying at a boarding house in Connecticut there, and they had cake and everything, and I really just ate it. Been starving for so long. They got to Chicago World's Fair, and are we still on? We went to Chicago World's Fair. The second year I was invited out again, and they had my car do several things. Used to have it doing waltzing down in the main. It could waltz. It really could dance very beautifully. And then twice a day they wanted me to run it completely through the fairgrounds as a feature. And then I would end up at what's called the Wings of a Century. And the Wings of a Century was an enormous pageant because Chicago was the great railroad center. So they had all the great locomotives of the early history, from the earliest locomotives on to the great railroad yards, and they ran railroad cars and everything out on front of the grandstand of the Wings of a Century. They had the final episode of the show had me the Dymaxion car after they had all the 20th century and all the fast trains and so forth. And I would come in from the wing. It was quite an open space. I suppose I'd have a length of a football field to get accelerated. So I really could come in very fast and got the middle of the stage in front of the grandstand, and I would would slow to about 15 miles an hour, put on my brakes, and then throw in a complete ground loop. And everybody in the stand right up, they were sure that I was going over, you see, and they see the thing spinning around. And I had the fundamental steering so that once you let go of your wheel, she'd go absolutely in the direction at the time you let go. So that I'm sitting on the seat, all right. They had a place they wanted me to take position in the back stage, up the stage where all these vehicles are all around. And so I'd just be spinning around, and then she'd go right up to it. Very lovely. But she redeemed herself very much in that second year, and that again brought Henry Ford's great interest, and he did all kinds of things to help me incidentally during it. He telephoned to me at Bridgeport when he heard I was doing what I was doing, and he gave me 70% discount on anything that Ford Motor Company made that I could possibly use. So I bought Ford engines and so things like that, of course. And I usually, this was the year of the first Ford V8. So I had this first Ford V8, and I put aluminum heads on it and things like that, and cut down made it increase the compression just a little bit. But I did get up to 128 miles an hour, and it all do this wonderful streamlining. Many times we would go out with another car of the same weight,